It's time for the February roundup. What happened in the world of watches in February? We've got new releases as usual. We've got some quick takes on those, including bronze gold Seamasters. And on top of that, Rolex closed Bucherer. A favorite of mine has a display case back, which isn't really news, but I had to include it. And there's a new Morgan Stanley report out. Let's dive in. Rolex is shutting down the Bucherer watch brand. Not the stores, just the watchmaker. Honestly, sounds fine. I've seen a lot of CF Bucherer watches and their collaboration watches, and I've never ever seriously considered buying one. They don't figure on the Morgan Stanley watch report. My guess is they weren't selling that many watches and they likely weren't making anything near an acceptable level of profit. Rolex have proven to be exceptionally good at doing business, and I think this is just a simple, unsentimental business decision. Bucherer watches are nice, but they didn't sell enough, and the amount of money likely needed to turn the brand into something compelling and competitive was likely not seen as worth it. So they shut it down. Odds are nobody's going to notice. It also sounds like most of the staff are being offered jobs at Rolex because Rolex is still expanding and integrating some of their watchmakers, probably makes their life easier in terms of capacity and capability development. So in the words of Jeremy Clarkson, oh no. Moving on. This isn't a February thing, but I found out in February, so it counts. The CQ from Glashütte is now available with a transparent case back. This is huge. Until now, if you wanted to see a movement in a CQ, you had to go for the Pano version, which is a different movement and a noticeably larger watch. I have the CQ, and apparently I can buy the new case back. Glashütte gives you a lot of watch for your money, and this addresses a real weakness of the original model. You now have a display case back to see a really well-finished movement. This is customer-centric and it's super cool. Frederique Constant have a new Worldtimer. For those of you that don't know, Frederique Constant are an independent brand that haven't been around for centuries. Their claim to fame is affordable complication watches. They have a sub $20,000 perpetual calendar. They already had a Worldtimer, which was good, but I always felt it was a little bit, aesthetically frumpy. The case design was too old for my tastes. It was also a classic busy Worldtimer with the whole globe in the center, sub-seconds dial. And this new model is just cleaner, more legible, and the case form is just more modern. Who's it for? It's for someone considering a Nomos Weltzeit or a Junghans or the original Frederique Constant, but is looking for something with a more conservative but still modern design. You want something functional but simple, not something that's overly ornate or complicated in terms of layout. The biggest weakness is likely that it's a limited edition, but it probably isn't going to be hugely difficult to get hold of. So in my sort of classification of, is it a grail, a buy, a shortlist, consider it, or are there better options out there? I'd definitely say shortlist. We've got a new Morgan Stanley report. What does it say? Well, overall, most brands are down. The notable exceptions are Rolex, AP, and a couple of other independents. Out of 50 brands in total, 12 are up, and 38 are down compared to 2023. I've got a market analysis coming, but the short version is the world is back to normal. Hype for watches is over, and when the world is insecure and unsafe, people generally buy less trinkets for their wrists. If you are one of the many people that has been fired in the US federal government, you are likely not celebrating by buying a new watch. Those that do buy, they are sticking with safe brands like Rolex. Rich people still have money, so they keep buying Pateks and APs. And it also depends on where you live. The market fell a little in the West, but the brunt of the decline is China. China and Chinese people are not spending money on watches at all. Of the few things that I felt are notable, JLC are in a bad place according to this data. They sold less watches and their implied retail price hasn't increased. Despite wanting to go premium, they have failed, and that's not what they want. The Tudor hype is over. After 5-10 years where we all kind of swooned over whatever they released, I think Tudor are now settling into a more down-to-earth, less hyped phase. Despite the Tudor Flamingo not pink being sold for like $20,000, $30,000 on the secondary market. Gucci's average price for a watch is 775 Swiss francs. Louis Vuitton's is 5,000. I think this is notable and funny because 20 years ago, these two brands were essentially brand-wise in the same position. They've really gone down a completely different road where Louis is now a true premium luxury brand for clothing, bags, and watches, where Gucci is kind of mid. Breguet continued their decline, which is probably a good thing, especially considering that they did succeed in getting the implied retail price up. The key to Breguet surviving, and you can watch my video on the topic, is not to become more like AP. It's about being smaller, but more exclusive and more expensive. As for me, size isn't everything, but subscribers are a good indicator of whether or not I'm making content that people find worthy of their time. So if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed, you might think my videos are worthy of your time. If so, click the subscribe and notification button. Thanks a ton. Grand Seiko, 40mm watch, 11.7mm thick, ever brilliant steel, which I don't know what means, but I suppose it's their oyster steel. I've seen what it looks like and that's good, but what it actually means, no clue. 100 meters of water resistance, 5 Hz 80-hour power reserve movement with a see-through case pack and an accuracy of +5 to -3 seconds per day. I like it a lot, even for $10,500. Who's it for? It's for those people who are considering a Rolex Datejust or an Bucherer or something similar. This is the Grand Seiko go anywhere, do anything kind of sports watch. It's for someone who wants something different, something that sets themselves apart from the generic Rolex buyer. You don't get the fluted bezel, but you get a dial and a dial finishing that is typically measurably more detailed and more precise than what Rolex ever does. It's a more restrained affair, and Zaratsu polishing and special dials are not as eye-catching as some people would have you believe. A Rolex Datejust is very much about showing the world that you have a Datejust. Grand Seiko's selling point is about you knowing for yourself what goes into this watch. It's subtle, it's implicit, and it's not in your face. Two weaknesses. Grand Seiko have been teasing a new bracelet, but this still hasn't got it. It's still the weakest part of the watch. And second, some people have said that this is a butthole dial. To some people, it is one of those once you see it kind of things. For me, this is a definite shortlist option. A brand that I don't cover often is Timex. So for me, often I think of Timex as Swatch, but without the funky colors. They are in the price range of Swatch and Citizen, where it's mostly about affordability. For the most part, I don't pay huge attention to what they release, but on occasion they do some really interesting stuff. The James Brand collaboration comes to mind, and this one is the Giorgio Galli. This is $2,000 for a Timex, which for the brand is pushing it. At least some people will think so. Is it reasonable? Well, from a specs perspective, you can get comparable options cheaper. $2,000 for a steel bracelet with 50 meters of water resistance and a base Sellita SW200 movement is on the high side. A lot of other brands can do the same for anywhere between $1,200 and $1,800 in titanium. There's a lot of variance that comes down to finishing, grade of the movement, regulation, but on balance, 2K is a little bit on the high side. But you get titanium, and most importantly, it's a good-looking original design in a wearable size. This is for people that want something special, something unique, and that doesn't look like your standard sports watch fare. It's also for someone who doesn't care about people's opinions of brands. 2K for a Timex is something you have to be okay with. The biggest weakness is like the pricing, or depending how you look at it, what you get for the price. But it just a really nice looking watch. I'd be tempted because of its interesting design that isn't like all those other regular sports watches out there. Considering aesthetic merit in terms of strength and weaknesses is always difficult. What you like, I might not, vice versa. But I think it's fair to say that the design is very minimalist and that it's likely going to turn off some people. I'd also be a little bit curious as to whether or not, once I get hands-on, as to what the legibility is like. The matte with matteness could probably be an issue, but I'm not sure. As to whether or not it's worth buying, I'd say shortlist. $134,000 for a watch. Nico Leonard made a point in a video a while ago. He stated that Richard Mille have peaked too soon. And I haven't really completely concluded whether or not I agree, but his point does have merit, and that's why I'm including this watch despite the fact that I will never ever see it in the metal. It's a square Richard Mille. It's got all the hallmarks of a Richard Mille. It's got an intricate and complicated base movement. It's got a unique case design, and it's big and visible and noticeable as always. But I think you can look at this watch in a lot of ways. If people are getting tired of variations of twin-O watches, what do? Square. You try something different to stay relevant. That's what I see when I see this watch. Realization maybe that people aren't quite as into Richard Mille as they have been. So they're like, what do? This isn't a toffee candy talking point. I think this is, the attempt to stay relevant and stay interesting. Now, who's it for? No clue. Rich people who want expensive things. I don't like it at all, so I'm completely biased. It's also too big. The lug-to-lug of 45.6 millimeters is in the range of a Black Bay, but square cases just hit different. We are very close to Cartier Santos large sizing, and that's a bit of a dinner plate for a lot of people. I'd probably say there are better options out there. I mean, get a Jean or something. We knew it was coming because Daniel Craig wore it. It's the no-date Seamaster 300M in bronze gold, and it costs $27,900, depending on where you live. This is for people considering a Submariner in full gold, but want something different. This is a statement piece. It's meant to be noticed. Simple as. You don't buy a $27,900 bronze gold watch to actually go diving. The biggest weaknesses, I think there are three. The first one, the bracelet, I don't feel is good. It's thick at the clasp. I've got it in the No Time to Die, and I know what I'm talking about. It's also inflexible, and on my wrist at least, it doesn't drape as I feel it should. Second, the pricing is yet another example of the Omega intern just rolling a dice and making up a number. I have to be honest, I know nothing about how making an alloy affects the price of a watch, but 37% gold for a watch that costs not much less than the full gold watch, it just feels expensive to me for what it is. I could probably be completely off on this, but a Speedmaster in full gold is $35,000. I'd probably get that instead. Last thing, this watch shouldn't get the green patina of most bronze watches. That's good in my estimation, but it will still patina. I wouldn't personally buy this until such time as I've seen real life examples of how this watch patinas. I dig this watch, but honestly, I think there are better options out there. Get a Zin T50 gold bronze. It might be discontinued, but about $5,000. There's less gold in there, but it does exactly what you want the Omega to do at a far lower price. And that's your roundup for the month. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Be sure to come back for more. Like, subscribe. Cheers.